It's another episode of The View From The Ninian where we'll be celebrating nothing as we saw 2 losses in a week, hampering our relegation prospects or boosting our relegation prospects. Depends on the tone of the words, really. Joining me as always, Ben Price, Tom Phillips. Tom Phillips, nice shirt.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we made those, didn't we?
Did, yeah, a while ago now. I saw it hung up in my basement. It's like it's time to bring it back out. So, yeah, repping the View From The Ninian shirt.
Ben Price, an equally nice shirt there, but we didn't make those.
No, we didn't.
Although
the quality on the Tour Sport stuff, I would argue, is better than the quality Puma put out in the early mid-2010s.
Well, I just, every time I pull a shirt out of my cupboard, like, there's something wrong with it. Like, a sponsor's falling off, or the Wales badge on the back is cracked, or there's a slight rip in it, or something like that. Football shirts don't really hold up, do they? Not in the modern ones, anyway.
No, it is just, looked at this week, and the sponsoring letter is cracking on this, which is really doing my head in. Don't get that with Tour Sport, so big up them.
Is your sponsor cracking, Tom? That is a Tour Sport shirt.
Not cracking, it's a cracking sponsor.
Hey!
There we go.
That's about as fun as it's going to get on this episode. As we quickly segue into the Burnley loss. 2 games this week, 2 losses. The first one was on Tuesday night. Home game against Burnley, which, Ben, I don't think anyone really gave us a hope of doing anything in the game, but it came away as quite a disappointing loss, wasn't it?
Yeah, I came away from a 2-1 loss probably in the best mood after a loss I've been in a while. I felt really sort of like excited and sort of like, we gave them a really good game. To be honest, the only disappointment is we didn't get anything from it. We were sort of, like we said ourselves, it's not, the free hit was thrown about a lot, and it probably wasn't that, but it was sort of anything from it would have been a bit of a bonus. And yeah, we were just really unlucky not to get anything.
Tommy, the first 10 minutes suggested it could have been a long night for us. Obviously, Burnley are one of those teams that they're obviously very good. They're up there in the table, but they won yesterday 4-0. We only lost to them 2-1. They seem to be the kind of team that either batters a team or it's a really tight win. Were you fearful that it was going to be like the earlier game of the season when we lost 5-0?
I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I thought it was going to be the classic one of they've scored early. We're going to not fold, but we're just going to struggle to get back into it. It felt like they were just going to shut up shop. But they actually had quite a bit of an attacking intent. And we got away with it a bit. They had periods of the game where they kind of blew us away. And to be honest, as we went through the game, the longer we stayed within touch and distance, I got a little bit more confident. And it didn't quite come into fruition in the end. But we were like the best team in large periods of that game. I never felt like, after we rode that early storm, it didn't feel like they were going to batter us. But that was the problem. There was that early storm. And I think there's been too many games this year where we've let kind of teams like run riot early doors really get at us. And we haven't really given a good account of ourselves. And it was the same case again, really.
Yeah, and then they obviously scored. Josh Brownhill, who's consistently a good player for Burnley, got the first goal. It was a kind of classic goal for us, really, to concede, wasn't it? Ball across the box. We didn't really react to it, and it was a very good finish. They could have gone on from there, didn't they? But we kind of woke up after that.
Yeah, it's getting frustrating that this is what it takes for us to wake up, is a team scoring. I saw someone on Twitter yesterday saying we should start a game at 80 minutes, 10 minutes in, and 1-0 down, and it would just save everyone that time. And it makes a point, because the only difference with this was that normally we see those goals, they're a very simple ball across, and it's just a simple tap in. At least this was a good goal. It's the first time in a while I've looked at it and gone, it's a tidy finish, that at least. But it is getting frustrating. It's the same old situation. Teams know it's the classic FIFA sweaty goal, isn't it? Put it across the box and tap it in. We seem very susceptible to it constantly.
Well, I'm susceptible to it on FIFA. Not very good at scoring them, but very good at conceding them. So I don't play the game anymore, Ben.
It is poor from us, mind, because he's third top scorer in the league, Brownhill. It's not as if he arrives into the box late. He does that all the time and nobody tracks him. And it's not like it's in the latter stages of the game, everyone's shattered. It's early doors, people aren't concentrating. He's one of the most dangerous players in the league for doing that exact thing. It's a tidy finish, but he should not have had that time on the ball. And it's just frustrating to see that happening, because he should be just cut off 10 yards before then.
We don't. We say we probably said it on the podcast every week. We don't learn from these things, do we? You know, I think
No.
the only time we've ever seen some element of planning from Riza was for the Swansea game, where we knew exactly what we were doing in the first half to kind of counteract Grimes, and then we came out the second half and blew them away. But we don't seem to know what the threats are that are coming to us. Like that, like you say, he's one of the third top scorers in the league. That's an obvious threat to kind of try and snuff out, but we just didn't do it.
I think it's a telling sort of issue with our coaching. I think I think like Riza's team and everything with it's done a lot of good over the last few months. I think like I've sort of alluded to it in like the Sunderland preview and stuff as well that we've done. But there's so much going on with the defense that's not being worked on, not being corrected. It can't be a coincidence this happens. Eventually, this does come down to not individual errors, but coaching. It's happening far too often. It's not being worked on or being addressed for it not to be an issue from the coaching side as well. I think that's a very fair criticism of Riza at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that the point around us taking something to happen for us to wake up is true, and it happened in this game, didn't it, Tom? Obviously, they score, we wake up, Salic hits the post, and all of a sudden we think we can get back into this game.
Yeah, it was exciting for a bit. It turned into a pretty good game second half because
it was very open.
Like surprisingly open actually for a team that haven't conceded any goals for about 30 years. We actually we're not exactly the most attack-minded team, and we had chances. And I think that was the promising thing coming out of that game. It's like this is a team who don't concede goals, and suddenly we looked like we were causing a threat, but still we didn't take advantage. So I think if you treat that game as a one-off, it's a promising performance, but it does feel a little bit like Groundhog Day, where we've come into the game later on, we've created chances, we haven't really taken them, and we've come away with fuck all. And it's getting a bit boring now, isn't it? Coming away from those games with nothing, and it could come back and bite us. Good. It's against Burnley. Some people are saying it's a free hit, but again, I don't care who's in front of you. It's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and Ben, despite all that good play in the first half, you know, we still went 2-0 down. It took another goal from Burnley for us to wake up a little bit more. At that point, you know, with Burnley's defence, with the way that they were playing, with the way that they've been set up, we go 2-0 down. You kind of think it's game over, don't you, at that point?
Yeah. I think I said to you at the time, I was like, the one thing now, if we can get a goal from this, it wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, it was. I felt like it was a bit against the run of play. I didn't think they really deserved that second goal. But when you're playing against those top sides, you can't switch off like we did for that second goal again. I'm bored of saying it's individual errors and stuff like that but it just feels like every goal we can see there's an individual error or people switching off that just cost us. It's really a screamer where you're looking at it and going, oh, we could have done nothing about it. It's just unfortunate, but that's part of the reason we're in the position we are, and we've got the third worst defense in the league.
Yeah, something like that. We've been pretty piss poor in defence, haven't we? I think it's a theme, and that we'll get to the tweets in a bit, but it's a theme in the tweets really that I hadn't really considered it. Obviously, we're not playing well, and we're towards the bottom of the table, but I hadn't realised how bad our defence actually is this season. When you consider the players that are there and how individually they are quite good, you know, Gutas can be one of the best defenders in the league on his day. It's just this season he's been pretty poor. Fish has been struggling to come in and out of the team. Obviously, McGuinness we let go at the start of the season and thought we'd be okay because of that, but maybe there's a bit of a hole there that he's left. And then Tom, just before half time, we did what nobody else could have done in about 365 games. We scored a goal against Burnley and broke James Trafford's I think it was around 1,300 minutes record without conceding. And it was a classic Salic goal, wasn't it? Great cross by O'Dowda, Salic with a great looping header, and the keeper had no chance.
And some people will say breaking that record is better than 3 points. That's the argument I'm going to go for to try and get some sort of silver lining out of this. No, it was two of our best players linking up, really. Like two of our bright sparks. Like Salic, since he's come in, it's unreal, really. When you think about it, like how difficult we found it to score goals. Like we've had to have Robinson plucking out of his ass every now and again, just gets back into games and things like that. He doesn't look that exciting a player. Do you know what I mean? He's quite cumbersome in a way, but he's already notching goals. It's mad, really. And he's our player. Like we've said this before, it's not like a loan signing that's going to go back somewhere. At least we've got him for next season, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. But O'Dowda, again, he's been Mr. Dependable, hasn't he? You play him in a defensive role, you play him in an attacking role. He's always one of our best performers on the in the team. And we haven't had many players who've been consistently dependable this year, but he's definitely one of them, and probably arguably one of our players of the season. But yeah, it was great to see them linking up, and I'm hoping to see a lot more of that going forward.
On the defence point, Ben, we have the second worst defence in the league, joint with Luton on 59 goals. Plymouth have the worst. They've conceded 73. Burnley have the best. They've conceded 10 goals. So Yusuf Salic has scored 10% of the goals that Burnley have conceded this season, which is quite a mad stat, really, isn't it? Considering how little goals they've conceded. Second half, Ben, obviously we've talked about how we thought we were, came back into the game. Second half, really, the game was there for us to win, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's the frustration that we didn't really do anything with it. I'm looking at now 9 shots in the entire game, but only 2 on target. I think for the most part, we've sort of spoke about when we've attacked in the last few weeks, we've been quite good at putting them away. That's just not happened in this game, and it's cost us 3 points. You look at it, sort of Salic hits the post and the crossbar easily on another. They could have a hat trick, and then the other chance I think that screams out is that Will Fish one. He does all right. Like, you should think he should score, but the other bit is just
no one's following in, are they?
Yeah, and that's what other teams do, especially the top teams with players and confidence. Someone's always following in there, but we seem to be insisting on holding around the penalty box because we just constantly think everything's going to fall back out to us. No one's just taking that gamble, and it's cost us 3. It's cost us a point at least.
Yeah, Tom. We could talk about how good the performance was. We could talk about how well we played and the fact we scored against Burnley, but in reality, there's 0 points on the board, isn't there?
Yeah, and at this stage of the season, that those performances don't matter anymore. If I was in the first 10 games of the season, we've gone toe-to-toe, one of the best teams in the league, that's promising. It doesn't matter now. We've got to get points on the board. These plucky performances are coming too late. And with our Will Fish one as well, I'm not surprised that no one was following up with the back post because he's got to score. I was watching on my phone in work and I leapt on my seat because I thought he'd scored. I don't quite understand how he's missed, to be fair. I know he's probably the worst person he can fall to, but you've got to at least hit the target in that spot there. And putting a point on the board in that game, it makes a hell of a difference going into the next game then. Every point makes you that little bit more comfortable now. It's coming to that stage of the season that a draw could be absolutely massive. It doesn't matter in the first 15 games, but it is absolutely huge. So it's like I said earlier, it's another massively missed opportunity.
Yeah, I'm in two minds on the Fish thing because I think he's caught in two minds as well, isn't he? Because I'm in two minds, he's in two minds. He's got to get something on the ball and just get it towards the goal, which he does. But could he hit? I think he should have probably hit it harder. I think he probably could have. He probably used the wrong technique on the volley because at that point he's trying to cushion it into the far corner. When at that point you just need to hit it hard and on target because the keeper's rushing out at you, and nobody's rushing in. If he had probably a split second longer, he'd probably see that nobody's rushing into the back post, and he just needs to get it on target. And I think that's where the problem is really. And I think it's Will Fish. He's not a striker, is he? If that had fallen to Salic, if that had fallen to even O'Dowd or Rolls, it's probably going to end in a goal. But because it's fallen to Fish, maybe even NG would have done better with it. I don't know. I just think it's the worst person for it to fall to at that time, which is a shame. What's also a shame, Ben, is Sunderland. As a place, as a football match. Only joking, Sunderland's all right. Let's talk about the team selection. Riza, he's a fan of tinkering, isn't he? Started tinkering with the defence. You've talked about it here, that we've talked about how bad the defence is, that we're leaking goals, and yet he makes changes again, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's no consistency in that defence to form partnerships, is there? And it's getting silly now. As someone pointed out on Twitter, he's constantly changing. I never thought. Now I look back at the teams, I was going, it is just constant tinkering with that back, and there's no settlement there. Sort of, you think back to every team we've done well with, that back four has pretty much picked itself instantly. Even when we've got a bit of depth there, the back four tends to have a solid thing. When you go on your best run, that back four isn't changing. And I feel sorry for someone like Fish, who has done all right when he's come in, but then instantly taken back out. I think we need to settle on that back four, even if it's the Burnley game wasn't a disaster. We were switching off and there's individual errors, but I feel like players like Fish will cut those out if they get a bit of a run. They're just not being given that chance, and there's no sort of then consistency being built within that team of players switching off and knowing where each other are. I feel like Gutas has had 5 different centre back partners this season. You've got NG, Bagan, Darland, Fish. Who else? There's one more I can't think of.
He played alongside Lawler, didn't he? As well.
Lawler, yeah. And McGuinness obviously went before the start of the season. Like, how is he supposed to find like a good centre back pairing with that when you don't know who you're playing alongside? Right back.
Played alongside Chambers as well for a while.
Yeah, Chambers. That was the one I was thinking of. Sorry. And then obviously NG, the right back position's been rotated constantly, and I think Rinamota's done well. It's just unfortunate he's been injured for the last couple of games, but we can't keep doing this. I looked back and had a look back since the 1st of Jan. There's only been 3 occasions where we've played the same back 4 2 games in a row, and even then, we've never played it through. We haven't played 3 consecutive games in a row with the same back 4.
And also, I think when you look at the teams, when the team selection often comes out, you do have to spend a bit of time trying to decipher what's going on, because it's not as straightforward as it used to be. Like, I think yesterday's team lineup took me about 5 minutes to figure out what we might be playing, because all of a sudden we've got 4 striker attacking players in there alongside a couple of midfielders, and there look like there could be 5 defenders in there as well.
Yeah.
The whole setup, it's just not. There's no clarity there really, and I think maybe it's a confidence thing. Riza's not sure. Maybe Riza's trying to play the best players for the game and all that kind of stuff. I get it. You know, he's the manager. He makes his changes. But if the fans are going into games going, well, I'm not really sure what kind of setup we're playing here, it doesn't give us confidence, does it, Ben?
No, and that's how you sort of get the belief in the backing from the fans, isn't it? If the fans start nervy and the players start nervy, it does make it easy for teams to start well against us. And look at the Sunderland game; it's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but if we don't know what's going on, perhaps the opposition don't. So
yeah, maybe
positives, eh? But I think with the defence, though, it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, right? Are we performing badly because we're chopping and changing, or are we chopping and changing because we're performing badly? Like, you can look at it both ways, because we've just been there. There's constant individual errors, and like you can't put that down to. I don't think that's chopping and changing. That's players not standing up as well. So it's a really difficult one for Riza, because is it me who's causing it, or is it them? And at times, it's our players just switching off. And I think that's the frustrating thing this year. It seems like we're getting it tactically wrong, but also players aren't playing well enough. And that's why we're in the lowly position that we're in.
Well, I mean, a prime example is yesterday, Tom, isn't it? We start that game against Sunderland. You know, the one thing we always want to talk about is not being carved open within the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, because that gives you the platform to build on. What happens? We could see the goal in 2 minutes, and it was probably our own downfall as well, wasn't it, Tom?
100% our own downfall, because we give the ball away in sloppy positions again. Like we're trying to play out from the back, and it's not on. Like they're pressing, and we've tried to play a pass that's not there. We've given them the ball and the impetus in the attacking third, and they've just run straight through the middle of us. And it just feels like we've seen this time and time again. But it's really interesting, because at the beginning of the season, in pre-season, we were playing this football at the back, and we were shitting ourselves, because I remember like there was a Bristol Rovers pre-season, I think, where like we got caught out with it and it nearly cost us a goal. And then we went back to not playing that at all, where we were lumping, and now we're trying to play it again. And you can tell we can't work out what's going to work out for this squad. It feels like we're close to something, but everything's not quite working. And this playing from the back is definitely not working over the last few weeks, because it feels like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot.
But when we did it in pre-season, what we were doing was the centre halves were splitting, the midfielder was coming into the middle to get the ball, and the wing backs are pushing up. We're playing out from the back now, and we're not doing that. We're trying to play out from the back, but we're not making it conducive to us to play out the back, because we're not making the space and finding the players. So these mistakes happen because of that, because we're forced into trying to find the sneaky little gaps between players where Sunderland players are pressing or other players are pressing forward. And of course, we're going to lose the ball. Sorry, Ben, cut across you.
Well, it's sort of what along the lines of what you're saying there is, surely it's just common sense, though, from, I think, Horvath in this case, sort of, you've played it out to, I think it was Gutas on the right. He's giving it back to you because there's no option there. We're being pressed. Like, Sunderland players are right in front. Why are you giving it to Bagan there, who's got 2 men on him? He's got no options, no outlet there.
Yeah.
Surely at that point, you just go, right, fuck it, let's just lump it up and sort of hope we win the ball in midfield. You're better off losing it there than you are losing it where we did and giving them an easy chance. That's, again, like Tom said, it's individual errors, but it's fucking common sense more than anything. Like, if you gave away that goal in Sunday League, you'd be fuming.
Yeah.
It's just basic. And I think it's unfair. It's a poor pass from Bagan. He should put his foot on it. But to be honest, there was not a lot else he could do. Horvath's putting him in the position for there, and there's a lot of people calling for him to play because they felt like his distribution short game was better. But That's not better. That's just basic errors, man. That's just stupid. And like Riza can't count for that. Yeah, at some point you've got to know yourself, right? I know we're trying to play it out from the back, but this has got to go long. And that
It's
was
just,
it's just put us under unnecessary pressure so early on.
I just don't understand why teams have moved. I get it. People want modern football is slightly different. You're going to play it out from the back, but there are times where you just need to lump it forward, and it doesn't matter if the ball's going to go to anyone, if it's actually going to land at someone's feet, or if it goes out of play. You just need to relieve the pressure at some time. And like they're good footballers because they're playing championship football, but they're not fucking Man City, and like they're not at that level where they can play it out from the back and play it out from the back perfectly every time. And I think that's what we've moved away from a bit too far. There were times under Bullet where we would try it, but then there were other times where we would go agricultural. And I think Riza is probably too one way at the moment when he does need to just relieve the pressure sometimes, and we do just need to boot the ball forward. Because that goal probably doesn't happen if we boot the ball forward.
It definitely doesn't. I don't think that goal happens if Anik's in goal. I feel like Horvath sometimes is very naive with the ball at his feet and constantly tries to play that short pass because he doesn't believe in his long game. And that's fine. Like we get, he's not that great at sort of punting it long. It's sort of 9 times out of 10, it does end in a throw in for the opposition. But in that situation where we were on yesterday, that's fine. The pressure's off and we're not constantly under threat and like in immediate danger of conceding a goal.
Some good news. Michael Duff has been sacked by Huddersfield. I feel like Cardiff City ruined his career after that Swansea game. Tom, we've talked about NG. He's been one of our better players in the last few years. He's been better recently, but wasn't his best game again yesterday. Again, though, NG has come back into the team. He's now playing with a different player in front of him. Isaac Davis came back into the team. So is it on NG that he didn't play well, or is he just getting used to a new system?
No, it's on NG, I think.
Good.
This is what we were saying last podcast, though. Like, he comes in, he'll have a couple of good games or a one-off good performance, and then he dips again. And we weren't seeing that when he got Player of the Year 2 years running. It's just this season, he just can't string these performances together. Perhaps there is some of it in the system. Like, perhaps he's a little bit, isolated with Davis being in front of him because he's not known for his defensive work. But he's played enough football, NG. I think he just performed badly. I don't think we could put it on anyone else. Hopefully it is a one-off now and he can put a performance in next time round. But he's done it so many times this season, I worry. He's not Mr. Dependable like he was before, and far from it.
I do have a bit of sympathy for him for this, though. Mundell absolutely murdered him. And at some point, Davis from midfield has got to come in and give him a hand. And that just didn't happen. I'm not taking away that NG had a poor game. I think he'd say himself he had a poor game. Like, Mundell, for most of that game, just rinsed him and found it very easy. But at some point then, your players have got to see, right, I'll just take a step back for a couple of minutes and try and sort of plug that hole and give him a bit of a hand. Because every time NG tried to see him out to wide, it was just quick feet and you get back inside the wrong side of him and NG was chasing, was looking at the back of his heels. It was a rough day for him yesterday.
Let's talk about Isaac Davis, Ben. Obviously, you mentioned him there being the cover for NG and potentially not helping out going back, but it was great to see him back in the team, wasn't it? He's obviously long time coming, came back from injury, came back from Katrick, depending on how you say it, signed a new contract, and he topped it off with a goal. And it was a goal kind of out of nothing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a good finish. It's very easy in that situation to panic and either put your foot through it and sky it over the bar or place it wide. He came in, followed up. I think Salek did brilliantly just to sort of try and get into a challenge with that ball and win it. And then the Sunderland keeper has made an absolute hash of it. And I can see why their fans are on his back a bit, to be honest, because he's nowhere near that ball. If anything, he fouls Salek. It's absolutely mental.
I was going to say, do you think? I mean, their players kind of half-heartedly gave a shout for a foul on the keeper, but it's not a foul either way because both of them are just challenging for the ball. But if anything, he's late to Salek, isn't he?
Well, Salek doesn't move. The keeper goes into him. I think if Salek moves into him, that probably is going to be a foul and the ref's going to give it an easy decision. But the fact Salek stands still, jumps in position to try and win that header and the keeper comes to him, there's no chance it's a foul. It's absolutely horrific goalkeeping because by the time the keeper's where he needs to be for the ball's over him anyway. It's an absolute shocker, to be honest. And then, it's, we're saying about someone following in at the back post. That's what Davis did that someone should have done for Fisher's chance. And that's probably where Davis's striker instinct comes into play because he did all right. It was a difficult game for him to get into, but I don't think a wing position is his natural game. I think he's definitely a striker you want sort of playing off the last man, just running beyond, making those runs. I think that's where he'll get the most success long term for Cardiff, because I think he finds it difficult to play out as a winger.
FOTMob gave him 7.2. He was our second best player on the pitch. And I think it's quite interesting looking at his stats, because he only had 2 touches in the opposition box out of 28, but he won 2 out of his 4 tackles, and he also won 7 out of his 11 ground duels, which suggests that he was putting in a bit of a shift, both defensively and trying to take people on, which is, I think, what we want to see from Isaac Davis, isn't it? We want to see him in the box, but we also want to see him running at people, because I think he's just got that pace to burn. And also, Tom, I don't know if you thought the same as me. It looks like he's bulked out a little bit. You know, a bit of bigger arms on his muscles.
He does look bigger, doesn't he?
Yeah.
To be fair to him. But if he adds that to a game, like, he's a tricky player as he is anyway. He's a nuisance. He can add a little bit of strength up top as well, so he can barge players off, then great. Because he was already shaping up great going into the season. We were all really, really excited to see what he was gonna do. And it was terrible timing with the injury, and it took him a bit longer to get back. But
yeah,
it's going to do him a world of good now. He's come back in looking stronger, gets an early goal back as well, give him a world of confidence. So I'm really excited to see. And I think it's a big if, right? But if we stay up, suddenly attacking wise, we look like we've got options. We've got big really players, we've got fast players. And if we want to start playing direct, then we've got outlets. And like all of a sudden, like, we're looking a little bit deeper up there. And I think, like, going on a bit of a tangent, but this is why in games, when we need to get back into games, we seem to do all right, because we've got these attacking options now we can unload. So for 1 goal down, we tend to perform well in the last 10, 15 minutes. Burnley, Bristol, other games this season, where we need to get something, we look decent. It's just when we need to see games out, when we're already in the game, we struggle. And I'm sure we'll come on to it now, because that's when we really seem to lack a bit of, clem.
It is exciting, Ben, isn't it, when you look at our attacking lineups? And obviously, to Tom's point there, we've got all this variety of players, and we've still got people like Callum Robinson. And Callum Robinson's having his best season for us, one of his best seasons at Championship level for years. And he's been managing an Achilles injury every week. I listened to the Burnley commentators on Tuesday. They couldn't believe that Callum Robinson had been dropped out of the team. It's like, well, I suggest you do your research, lads, because this has happened every week. He'll play a couple of games and he'll drop out for a game because of his Achilles. Imagine if we get him fit with a good summer and the Achilles problem gets sorted, and all of a sudden we've got Salic, Davis, and we might sign some players in the summer. Our attacking lineup looks pretty strong, doesn't it, going into next season, as Tom said?
Yeah, I think you look at that, it's a very competitive sort of championship lineup all of a sudden. It's more goals than we've probably had. Well, since realistically, it's the most goals sort of from strikers we've had since Chopper and Bothroyd, which is mental to think about. Individually, we've sort of normally have one striker that can get a few, or more often than not, no strikers that can get a few. We've sort of spread the goals about. Suddenly there. And you look at, like, even out wide, like, Tanner's still got to come back into it. Yeah, you give me a front three of Tanner, Colwill, and Isaac Davis. Yes, please. And Ashford on the other side. That's pace to burn and pace and skill. Like, in the right game, that's the front 4 that can cause any team in this league some serious problems. Add to that Salek, who's just an absolute nuisance, and Robinson having I think he's actually on his best season ever for goals, isn't he? No.
So, someone said something on Tuesday night, which I can't remember if it was just for the Championship or for goals, generally.
But that, whilst not fully fit and in a team struggling, it's really impressive, and sort of shown what we missed from him last year, where he wasn't at the races, and sort of clearly there was issues with him and Bullet. But you think if you added a few more goals to that team last year, there's playoffs there. Like, there was a real chance of playoffs, and sort of we probably have a bit more momentum than we had this year. So it's a shame, but yeah, go next year, suddenly get a bit more excited again, can't you? And that false hope arrives again.
Yeah, we can't wait for the summer. Looking at Wikipedia, he scored 12 goals for Preston in one season, and he's on 12 for this season. So yeah, I think he's on track for his best ever season at Championship level, which would be great. And Tom, talking about Salic, obviously we kind of came back into the game a little bit after our goal, and tried to kind of impart some pressure on Sunderland, and we came close to scoring again. It was Salic again. Another great bit of play for him in the box, being a nuisance, and Ollie Ball made a great saving goal.
He's always in the right place. I think that can't be underestimated. Like, he's just got a knack for being in the right place, right time. Like, even in the Villa game where he's putting a foot out and nearly gets it past Martinez. Like, he had no chances in that game. We had no ball. But when we did get it forward, he was there.
Target.
Yeah, and that's hard to teach that. It's hard to coach that into a player. So he's come fresh into this league. He's already scoring goals. He's already finding the right positions. A couple of the ones that have hit the post and the bar and stuff recently, they'll start to go in as well. And he could be really prolific at this level. And I've been super impressed by him. And like I said earlier on, he doesn't look that good a footballer, really. Like, if you know what I mean. Like, he doesn't stand out as being an outstanding football player. Yeah, but he's just an absolute menace. And that's my favourite type of footballer. Just barging people out of the way and scoring goals. I don't like pretty football. I want people like him prodding stuff home after he's elbowed someone. That's exactly what we want. But I'm really excited.
One of the things I've been most impressed with him is how he pins players. I think, we haven't seen it. Like, I think even Kiefer Moore wasn't particularly great at that at times. He could do it, but he didn't do it regularly. Every game, Salic gets a defender and somehow pins him, gets the ball around him, lays it off to someone, and then makes the run. And that's what he did against Villa, basically. He managed to pin the attacker and get the defender and get in front of him. And he did it against Millwall. He's done it in every game that he's come in. And I think if you've got a player who can do that, but is also a menace in the box, then he's going to do exactly what we want from him, which is win the ball in the middle of the park, get it out to the wingers, and then get in the box on the end of it, which is just an absolutely incredible quality to have as a striker. Ben, we've already touched upon it, but defensive changes probably cost us in this game again, didn't they? Riza, again, made some changes, switched us to a back five, and that probably cost us the point, do you think, Ben?
I think 100% it did. The second we changed into a back five, we weren't quite as in control as we were 10 minutes before in the game, but I felt like we were still going forward and sort of having, like, creating stuff. The second those substitutions happened and we sort of went to that back five, all the momentum came out of our game. Like, we might have kept the ball a bit better, but there was just nothing going forward. There was just nothing there. And it really hurt us. And then inevitably, 5 minutes after we make the change, we go 2-1 down to, again, a simple goal. But yeah, I think the one thing that will constantly hang over Riza is his choice of subs. Sometimes he changes them and they work perfectly. But in my head, I feel like he's got pre-made subs and pre-made sort of things of going, right, on 70 minutes, I'm making this change no matter what. And he did it. I'm going to go to, he's the plan. Obviously, him and his team have obviously planned, we're going to go to a back five after 70 minutes, no matter what. And they don't read the game well. And I think that's what happened here. And I think your substitutions, to be honest, cost us at least a point yesterday.
Well, it's been a constant theme, hasn't it, of the Riza reign. We talked about it several times. We talked about that first game against Bristol City away, where we went 1-0 up, and it was 65 minutes, and he shit the bed and made us go really defensive and changed all the players at the back and went to a back five. He's done it in other games where, Tom, he makes subs, and then he has to make subs that undo the subs that he's made. He'll switch us from like a 3 to a 5. We'll concede, then he'll go back to a 3 and bring different players on. And it's almost counterproductive, isn't it? Because it unsettles the team. Then he unsettles them again, trying to kind of repair the damage he's done. And then the game's done.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. I think, like, early in his reign, we were a bit like, you learn from this. And it felt like he was starting to. But I think it was just how the fixtures fell, to be honest. And this is what I was touching on earlier on. When we need to chase something, it's easy, right? Because you put all your attackers on the pitch and the other team shit themselves a bit and they set back. But when we're the ones who need to protect something or stay in a game, we really just don't do well in it. It's like you can count the games on like one hand, probably, where his substitutes have probably won us points. We've definitely lost more points than we've won by our substitutions in games, I'd say. And it's no coincidence that we're in the position we're in. I feel sorry for him a little bit, but I don't know. It just going into these games, it feels like, I'm not sure how deep our analysis is. Do we look at individual players in the other team, how they set up, how they play and things like that? Like, you've got the game like when we played against Hull at home, where we were like, give him credit because we were the better team in that one. And he probably was the better of the two managers out of him and Sellers. But still, it's not like we blew them away. We were the slightly better team against a relegation struggler at home. And we scored with one of our only opportunities. So, I don't know. It's just, I haven't got confidence going into the last 20, 25 minutes of games now. Even if we win in, I'm nervous. And I think that's not a good place for your fans to be. It's not a good place for your squad to be. It's not a good place for your management to be. Because I think it's quite infectious when you start to get those nerves.
Well, I mean, the whole game, obviously, we won 1-0, but it was hanging on for 40 minutes, wasn't it? After
Yeah.
Robinson scored, and you spend the whole game thinking, God, if they score, then I think the confidence goes to the point where it's just like if Hull score now, Hull are going to score 2 because we've retreated so far back, and the game's going to go from us. Then obviously defensive changes. We start retreating deeper and deeper, and then Sunderland score and win the game. Were you expecting it? Was it a surprise, or was it just, yep, that's Cardiff City at the moment?
It was very, of course, that happened. I think Bagan gives away a needless free kick. We're then clearly set up for them to do one thing. I think we're expecting them to hit it towards the back post and sort of try and deal with it that way. They obviously do a planned set piece and do something completely different. Our defense then go, hang on, no, we're set up for this. This is what we're doing. Let's not react just yet. And by the time they've reacted, we're ready to take kickoff because they've put it away and scored. That is, yeah, it was just a shambles. That I think it's such a poor goal to concede. Okay, you can be unprepared for the free kick to be taken in that way and played across that way, but you've got to react as soon as that's done. We were so flat-footed and so caught out with everything in that goal. It's just, again, it's a worry, isn't it? It's just the unpreparedness from them to deal with anything different than what they've been coached is a worry from this team.
You can see it a mile off, though. I don't think he was even that rogue. I think that was the thing. I'm no Mystic Meg. There's a reference to the kids there. Like, you could see that coming. Like, it wasn't that. You can see the way they were moving around and shaping up. Like, it wasn't as if it was completely, like, plucked from nowhere.
Yeah. I wonder what my lad's doing unmarked over on that side, and they're all looking at him and telling him to go out wider. I can't imagine what's happening.
It's basics, isn't it? Somebody is not watching what's going on and not pointing.
It might be benefit of camera angles. You never know. It might be benefit of camera angles, and you've seen it from that thing. But fucking hell, surely someone's got. Oh, if they don't whip it in the box, this is the other option they might do. Madness. I just don't understand how they don't see it coming. Mepham, of all people, to fucking score as well. I know. Like, it's just. If that was our defender, we'd be like, we should fall into anyone else but him. Anyone but Will Fish in that situation. They've got a defender and they fucking score. I'm annoyed. Yeah. I don't know why I'm so annoyed about this. I wasn't this annoyed at the time.
I didn't even realise it was Mepham who scored. I thought, I don't know who I thought had scored, but when I watched the highlights, it wasn't even obvious that Mepham had scored when I watched it back. So that's how confused I was about the whole thing. So I can probably understand why the Cardiff defenders are confused.
Bizarrely, Chris Mepham scored 4 goals. This is his 4th goal of his career. 2 of them have come against Sheffield United. Isn't that weird? I was looking to see if he scored more than 1 against us because I know he hadn't scored many. It was just nice.
The mate day effect.
Yeah. But yeah, it's his first goal in 4 years.
First goal in 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God. When he said he scored against Sheffield United, I was like, I thought he used to play for Sheffield United, but no, that's Chris Basham, who I always kind of confuse in my head. Both centre halves, both with quite weird second names. Anyway, doesn't really matter. He's got a broken leg, Basham. What else happened after that, Ben? Nothing. Game petered out.
Just game over, wasn't it? The referee may as well have blown up then. We created nothing, and Sunderland were very happy to take 3 points here, and job was done. And I can't actually think of anything that happened from then on out, to be honest.
No.
Ashford came on, couldn't get the ball.
That basically, I think, secures them their playoff place because if you look at the table, Sunderland are 4th on 68 points, Bristol City are in 7th on 53 points. It's like such a huge gap between 4th and 5th and then 5th to 7th. Like, it's an utterly ridiculous league this year. And I think it's what's the most annoying thing about this league is if you look at Coventry were level on points with us when Frank Lampard went in, and now they're 5th in the league in the playoffs, and they're on the best run of form they've ever been in. And I think there are so many what-ifs from this season that if we just made the right choice with the manager or just done something a little bit earlier with Bullet, or not even hired Bullet this summer and told him to get stuffed, we'd be in such a better position. But instead, we're fighting relegation and we're having a nice time doing it. Let's go over to Twitter. Twitter.com/VFT Ninian. And theme in this week's tweets. Let me see if you can spot it. Andy B, Andrew Bartley. We are capable of getting forward and can score. We are utterly dreadful at defending a counter-attack. Indeed, we look poor defensively in general. We routinely commit self-destructive errors. We have all season. I really hope that doesn't cost us in the end. Skolob Ho, I wasn't expecting anything out of these games, but they weren't moral crushing defeats like Leeds. I have confidence that we'll stay up now, but we are Cardiff. We don't do things the easy way. Tuesday is huge. That's actually pretty positive. Bluebirds passed. Not that I was expecting anything from these past 2 fixtures, but we rarely win games. I saw someone saying 4 wins in 23. That's a concern. Alan March, we don't have an away win in the league in 2025. And looking at the fixtures, I'm not sure we'll get one by the end of the season. Do you think we can stay up on home form only? Tom, do you think we can stay up on home form only?
God, if you'd asked me that like 2 months ago, I'd be on the verge of tears because it felt like we weren't winning anything at home. But like we've been okay in the last month and a half or so. So I think we're lucky that some of the teams below us are pretty poor, and you're relying on them to put a string of wins together. So if we do win a couple of games at home, it could be enough. And I think we have got to rely on that. I keep thinking we play okay away from home, but we just don't get results. There's a lot of pluckiness, but like there's just we just don't convert, do we? We just don't convert performances into points when we do put these performances in. But I think we're going to have to rely on the home form.
And our home games are against. So we've got Luton this Tuesday, Sheffield Wednesday on the 29th of March. We've got Stoke on the 12th of April, Oxford on the 21st of April, and West Brom on the 26th of April. Bar West Brom, they're all kind of mid-table or below. Stoke, Oxford are all around us in the league. West Brom, I don't know how they're still in the playoffs. I don't think they've won a game in about 15 years. From every time I read about them, they seem to have drawn a game. So the games are winnable at home. But then the away games, when you look at them, are also winnable. Blackburn, QPR, Preston, Sheffield United and Norwich. The only game there that you think isn't as easy as, isn't winnable is Sheffield United. Norwich have been in a terrible run of form, so they've dropped, I think, the most points in history from winning positions. So we've got an okay run in, and we have to hope that all the other teams are playing each other. I think, they are all playing each other, basically. So we do have a chance. Ben, for you, Savigma says, would any of our centre-backs get into any other championship team, mid-table or above?
I think Gutas would. I still think Gutas is a good player. I think he's really good. He's just sort of like a lot around him hasn't helped him out.
He has to do a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, individually, I think he's definitely our best centre-back. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there's other teams taking a look at him now with his contract up in the summer.
Yeah, it feels like he's on his way out from what Riza said in the week. What's DuPont? Mitoma virus. What a mad Twitter name. What are we doing about the defence? What changes are we making to help with the constant defensive errors? Reece Matthews, the story of the season continues. A poorly conceded goal followed by an even worse one. Week in, week out, we gift wrap goals to the opposition, giving ourselves a mountain to climb. 59 conceded in 36 games. Conceding at this rate piles pressure on our attacking players to perform. Bluebird John says we seriously need coaches, don't we? This Timo lot is draining the life out of us. Can't take set plays, goal kicks, sustained performances, defend nothing. Riza is a passionate manager, but he needs help and isn't getting any. When Ramosut is your most experienced coach, it's a problem. Gareth Dunning, with Derby winning, the pressure is firmly back on. Negative, 0 points and continued mistakes in defence. Subs. Can you spot the theme yet? Positive, this team aren't far off, and I still don't see much between the sides at the top or bottom. They just don't know how to win and can defend. John T.M. Williams, is Riza the answer going forward, as he seems to make the same tactical mistakes and fails to learn from them, i.e. Bristol and now Sunderland? Paul says, I think 1 to 4 points would have been great this week. 1 out of 4 points would have been great this week. He knew it was going to be tough. Why do we always make it so hard for ourselves? Start slow and finish slow sometimes. We look like a decent team against good teams for large parts in games too. Do you think it's nerves? It can't be nerves, can it, Tom? They're professional footballers, for fuck's sake.
I don't think it's nerves, no. It is funny when you put it in that perspective of, we start games badly and we end them too. And I'm just like, that's quite a lot of the football game.
Yeah.
And it's normally, we don't really do okay in the middle part because we're already 1 down and the team don't need to go into second gear. So it is worrying when you start to spell it out.
Yeah, it is worrying when you start to spell it out. Stephen Wells says, Warnock, bat signal if we lose to Luton. I'm torn. Not what I want, but this late in the day, I'm not sure what other firefighters would be out there. Relegation would be disastrous. Can't see the board getting things right to bring about the relegation reset that's something necessary. Ben, do you think if we lose against Luton, we're going to change manager? No. I can't see it.
No, I think no matter what Riza's here to the end of the season, I think the club, the lack of noise coming from it, everything about that screams that he's not going anywhere. I felt like if there was going to be a change of manager, if they weren't going to stick with Riza, they'd have done it sort of December, January time. I think now that's passed. If there's going to be a management change, I don't think it'll be until the summer. And my gut feeling is I think there's going to be a management change in the summer.
I think
And
so.
I think they're planning for that more than they are sort of anything else.
I agree. Neil White says massive game against Luton on Tuesday. Only 6 clean sheets in the league all season. Only 2 teams worse. Why are we so bad defensively? Ella La Espinola says, why does Riza keep going defensive to try and see games out? Bit us in the arse again yesterday. Neath Blue says there should be more talk about our attendances. Should the club be doing more to get fans in? Free tickets for kids in the family stand, which is basically empty. I agree a lot is about form, but we've lost 10k fans in the last 10 years. I think this season they've been absolutely screwed by the new TV deal. I've heard so much talk of families basically saying they have to pick between playing football in the morning or going to watch Cardiff City at 12:30. And I think that's really hampering us. And I think if there's a problem across the league, which I think there is, they should be doing more to lobby the EFL about it. Make the kickoffs evening. Make them 5 o'clock instead of 12:30, because that will allow people to go to games and allow people to go to play football in the morning.
The 12:30 kickoff thing, I don't get why there's so many. Just do one game as a 12:30 kickoff that you're going to show on TV. Yeah. No fan is buzzing they've got a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday. Every now and again, that one game at 12:30 on a Saturday is fine. But there's so many that aren't even on TV or on like Sky Sports Plus or whatever. If you're going to do Sky Sports Plus, put them as the 5:30 kickoff and go up against the Premier League if needs be. But it's just much more enjoyable experience for the fans and gives people a chance. I mean, didn't they put Sunderland versus Plymouth as a 12:30 kickoff?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. Just think of the fans and think of everything there. And it just the fans add so much when watching the game. We saw what it was like with COVID when there was no fans in the ground, how unappealing football is. I think the TV companies need to work with clubs to make it a more enjoyable thing and get the fans back in that side. And I think 3 o'clock and 5:30 kickoffs are the way to go. Just stick them with that and it'd be fine. And 12:30 kickoff.
Like growing up, because I'm obviously from slightly further away from Cardiff anyway. Like it was every Saturday was game finished, tracksuit over your muddy legs, throw you in the car and get down the M4 to go and watch Cardiff. And like that was for 3 o'clock kickoffs, it was tight. Yeah. And as a fan base as well, like there's a lot, obviously massive amount of our fans are in Cardiff itself, but we've got quite a wide fan base and in an area that is famously structurally horrific. Yeah. So it's hard for people to get to games then as well. When you surround all through the valleys, down towards West Wales. Like I'm not the only one from down there. There's plenty, and I don't think it can be underestimated the effect it has because that family stand is dead, absolutely dead.
Yeah. Ash says we've shown we can hold our own this week against top teams. The fact we haven't dropped into the relegation zone is huge. I know we got beat twice, but now we can focus on the teams around us and hopefully push at the table. Plucky 8th. David Charles says the free kick for their second goal. The world and his wife could see what they were going to do. Not at all sure why our players couldn't. And he also says, I just couldn't understand the initial formation against Sunderland. Having seen Cole perform at his best in a central position, he then gets stuck out wide. And don't get me started on the substitutions when we looked comfortable with every chance of scoring a second. Alan Griffith says the defence is probably the worst I've ever seen watching Cardiff. O'Dowd and Reno not fullbacks. Don't think Bagan is a centre-back. And Gutas is too slow to catch a cold. Entire defence needs overhauling ASAP. Ruben Cole will try to do too much as per, also swap him out for Joel. And if Daniel Morgan's back, this is the question that we will see ourselves off into the rest of the pod with. One that will leave a legacy, no doubt. Would you rather accidentally send a dick pic to your mum or your boss?
For fuck's sake.
Ben, your first.
The question was so big then, he's just vanished.
Yeah, look at that.
That is impressive. Yeah. This is what Daniel Morgan does to this podcast is he causes Ben James to absolutely freak out and vanish into thin air.
Yeah, for the ones not watching on YouTube, we're now down to 2. Oh no, he's back. Here he is.
My Google Chrome just quit. It literally just quit and reopened instantly. And
Google then, I heard this question, went, no. Just no. I'm not dealing with it.
Next question.
I mean, I didn't hear an answer. So Ben, would you rather accidentally send a dick pic to your mum or your boss?
I think I'd rather send a dick pic to my boss.
Okay. Tom?
I'd rather cut my dick off, I think.
That's not an option.
I suppose my mum seen it before when I was growing up, and I'm less likely to lose my income. So I got a mortgage, so yeah, I'll go with that. Oh God, I feel no, I don't want to answer. I've answered now. Oh, I've got all red. I don't like it.
I'll go with my boss because I don't currently have one. So I'll just be sending it to me.
I just like the idea. The next time your mum gets a WhatsApp from you, she's going to be terrified if she listens to this podcast.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what a podcast is. It's fine.
Twitter.com/VFT Ninian for all your tweets. We respond to those that we like. Right. Couple of things before we get to Luton and Blackburn. Ben, Riza subs, is he getting them wrong more than he's getting right? Obviously, you saw the theme there with the tweets, a lot about our defensive errors and our defensive woes, but also those substitutions. Does he just need to stop fiddling about with the team? Does he just need to keep it consistent and stick with one way of playing rather than trying to chop and change every game?
I think he needs to stop trying to be so clever. I think a lot of it is just, I think he's not reading the game. He's planning these out in his head and just going with it no matter what. He's not reading the game well. And I think that is the big telling issue with me is I suppose at Sunderland, like he's limited. I think like ideally in that situation with the way the game was going, you want to bring someone on like Joe Rawls or Ramsey and sort of shore up that midfield a bit. And I get they weren't there, so you haven't got that option. But to put Fish in and sort of make it a 3 at the back, it's just wrong. It's just, I don't think anyone was looking at it going, that's the right move to make there. We said just earlier, like his changes and his sort of fiddling is just costing us more points than it's helping us at this stage. And I think he needs to sort of address that. Like, I don't want this to be a pylon on Riza. Like we said before, I think like considering everything going on with the club and the circumstances, he's doing an all right job for his first job. And it's not an easy place to manage. There's a lot of high expectations in a team that's massively underperforming. And with everything going on in his personal life as well, I think it's really difficult for him to be dealing with all that. But there are aspects of this that aren't working. And sort of now it's been long enough, this has been going on, that it needs to be questioned. I think there's a lot of unfair criticism on social media, but I think there are some fair points as well coming on that I think need to be addressed by him. And I think he needs to sort of wake up and say, and just hold his hands up and say, yeah, you know what, I got that wrong.
Yeah. You'll be saying it a lot, though. I think that's the problem. If you start saying it, you'll be saying it most weeks. I think it's like, it's tough because I think it's really hard to tell if he's doing a good job or not. I don't think he is now. I think he got a lot of the benefit of the doubt. I think he's been there long enough. I think that squad is good enough that we should be getting more results than we are. And he's just a nice bloke. And it's just hard to criticize him because it's been so bad and it's been so turgid in the club. You kind of just want nice things to work nicely. Like it was the same with Hudson, right? I think he escaped because he had the club legend thing as well. But like, we knew it was going badly. Yeah, we didn't want to say it. And it feels a little bit like that now. And I think we've got a much better squad now than we have done for the last couple of years. And I think it was really interesting, one of those tweets saying it's probably the worst kind of like defense we've seen watching Cardiff. And I don't think that's far off. And I'm not sure if that's just down to personnel or the way we set up. And the longer we go into the season, the more I'm looking at, I think it's the way we set up and it's the way we react.
Yeah, and Ben, it was a little bit of a theme under Bullet. There was always a bit of conversation that sometimes his substitutions let him down. And it feels like Riza's just taken that and gone, I'm going to make it a lot worse. What can he do? Because it's obvious that he wants to tinker. It's obvious that he wants to change. Does he just need to work with his coaching team? Does he just need to work with his players on what's going to happen? Does he just need to be a bit more reactive? Because sometimes it does feel like he's just set in his ways. Yeah,
I think he needs to be more reactive. I think that's the big telling thing, isn't it? Like it's just not working with his set plays and his ideas that he's got in his head just aren't clicking at the moment. I do think he is very hampered with that, especially defensively. I think he clearly is still trying to find out that perfect pairing. And the ideal sort of perfect situation is he plays a back four one game, they keep a clean sheet and they play amazing, and then he can go, right, that's it. That's not happening. So it's not like an obvious sort of pairing. It's not an obvious situation of going, right, this is the back four now for the rest of the season. On top of that, you get the odd injury like Rinamata now, who has been the best right back this season for us, which is a mental thing to say on its own. Is now out for a few weeks with, I think it's a hamstring issue. Darland would probably be our second choice centre back in that pairing. He's managed to cut himself so badly he's out for a few weeks.
I can't believe he's still out.
He's training and stuff like that. So it must have been a hell of a cut.
Yeah, it must have been very
It must have been really bad for him to be out this long with it because, it didn't. I thought part of me thought he was being subbed to save himself from embarrassment after that goal.
Yeah,
because it was bad. But I know he's like this stuff that doesn't help with that situation for Riza, but he's got to stop tinkering now. I think he's got to sort of man up and say, right, I've had enough time. This is what I'm going to go with. This is where, and sort of believe in him and his players a bit more than he is at the moment. I feel like that trust and that belief from him to his defence just isn't there. And I think the players are feeling that.
We're not brave enough.
No.
The substitutes are just not brave enough. It's always so negative. It's always, okay, we're in this game. We'll sit back. We'll put more defensive players on. Where we are weak probably is defensively. We haven't got the players to bring on to go into those systems. And the problem is now we're too far into the season to start being more attack-minded. The time for this was 15 games ago, and we just haven't done it. Like I said earlier, the only time we do it is when we're already behind. And I think if we'd been braver from the outset, if we'd been braver 20 games ago, I think we'd be further up in the league. And I know that's hindsight a little bit, but we've added attacking talent and we're actually starting to score a few more goals now as well. And I think it's a missed opportunity, and we're kind of the architects of our own downfall a little bit, because I think our negativity has put us exactly where we deserve to be.
The telling situation is, right, if you look at this whole, everything around the club and where we are, with the Riza thing and what's making me think we'll change in the summer is, if you look at what we've got, do you boys think with a different manager, we'd be in a better position?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
I just think with a manager who, look, I think Riza has been hampered by the fact he came in when he was, and we were 6 games into the season, and he had to pick up the pieces from what was a really bad start to the season. That said, if we just hired, if you look at what Coventry did, right? Coventry made quite a controversial decision to get rid of Mark Robbins. It was quite a brave decision, and it's paid off for them. We don't do that sort of thing. We don't change our manager to bring in somebody better or somebody quite revolutionary in that way. We change our manager and bring in the best cheap option, which is what's happened every time over the last years. And it hampers us because you don't have a manager who comes in who is new to the club, has got fresh ideas. You've just got a manager who's a continuation of that thing. And yes, Riza has been better. Like, his points per game proves that. He has steadied the ship and has turned it around somewhat, got us some good results. But I just don't see him being the next revolutionary step, which is what I think we need now.
I don't see as I think he's a lovely bloke, and I think he's done as good as he can. I think he's worked really hard, but this is a job for a first job that's too big for him. I feel like I look at like the team if Blackburn have bought, like they bought Valerian Ismail bought in. I feel like someone like him came in at Cardiff, like who's not stupid money, but like solid. I think like you'd comfortably looking at us mid-table. I'm not saying he's going to put us into the playoffs and revolutionise us that and do what Coventry have done. But I feel like by now, under sort of the more it's going, the more I'm sort of looking at everything that's going on, the constant mistakes. I feel like a more experienced manager 100% cuts those out, and we're in a much better position than we are.
That's what Amushi was, though, right? And I don't think it was that much better.
No, but again, he came in at a weird time of the season, picking up the pieces, and I think, the argument could go either way, right? Because we don't help ourselves when we change our manager and bring in somebody new, and half the time we do it like Lamucci came in with the idea just to keep us up, wasn't it? Lamucci had one job, and that was keep us up at the end of the season. We didn't then give him a summer and say, you can go and make an impact now. We just went, okay, you're gone now. And I think Bullet was on the right path in that first season. I will always say that. It wasn't the best season in the world, but, you know, he took us from being a pretty terrible outfit, turned us around with one hand tied behind his back when it came to transfers, embargoes and everything else, did what he could, lay a groundwork for the next season, and then it fell apart. I won't defend what he did this season, but that first season felt like the step in the right direction. But we haven't kind of compounded on that. And this season, it's been a complete step backwards. And again, that's not necessarily Riza's fault. It's just the situation we land ourselves in. I do think the season needs a proper change of direction when it comes to a manager. We need a manager who's going to come in and be given a 2 or 3 year contract with at least a year and a half where he can build something. We can't just reset after a year like we have done every season, basically. I don't know who that is. I know that we had good applications and big name applications when we were looking for Bullet. I wonder if any of those will be interested. I wonder if anyone from around the league will be interested. I don't even know who's a good manager anymore because everything seems to be changing. So I have no idea who that will be, but I just feel like the winds of change are blowing our way again this summer, and I don't think Riza will be here for the long haul.
I'd happily see Riza stick around as a coach. I think clearly well liked by the players, but also with that, I think it'd be a shame for him to go from the club completely. There's clearly a good influence there, and he seems like a good egg. But I don't think he's a number one. Similar to like Mark Hudson. I feel like Mark Hudson will never I don't think he wants that anymore, is to become a first team manager. It's just not right for him. But I think the issue with Riza is now he's been a manager for so long at the club. He's been given that big job. I don't think he'd be able to step down now into like a number 2 sort of position or go back to being an attacking coach. And sort of sadly, I think that then means his time's up at this club come the summer.
Yeah, it'd be a shame to see him go. But I do think we need to be relatively ruthless, as other teams have done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be in this cycle again for the next 2 seasons.
And the pressure's then on the board, and like we haven't spoke about them enough recently. Like, and a lot of like reasons.
No, it's been nice.
Yeah,
It has been
nice.
Let's not do it now. No, now we're in.
They've got a big decision to make now. I think in what at the end of May.
Yeah, you gonna call them wankers, Ben?
Yeah, pricks.
There we go. Right, coming up to an hour. I was going to do a little quiz, but I'll leave that. It doesn't really feel like quizzing time. So let's talk about Luton and Blackburn. Tom, biggest game of the season on Tuesday?
We've said it before, but yes, this one is. I mean, I'm sure we'll have other ones, but where they are in the league, where we are in the league, yeah, there's no doubt. It's definitely like don't lose, a must not lose.
Mm-hmm.
But arguably, I think a win here is absolutely huge. I think it puts the gap between us and them, and it makes the next few weeks a little bit more comfortable. We can have the odd bad performance and still not get caught. So I think, yeah, it's an absolutely gigantic game.
Gigantic.
I don't know why I said that.
Yeah,
oh,
we're going to say it as well. Yeah,
take that back.
Ben, if we win on Tuesday, it would put 8 points between us and Luton in 23rd. Obviously, other results can happen on Tuesday, so I can't predict what's going to happen with Derby and Plymouth. But it feels like an 8-point gap between us and the relegation zones would be a bit of the breathing space we really need, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it takes the pressure off, doesn't it? Like that sort of realistically, it's a 3-result swing. Sort of you need sort of put yourself back in trouble. And look at the fixture we've got coming up. We're sort of out of that, where I think most of these games, you might lose the odd one, but I'm not looking at like, Christ, there's a run there where I don't see us picking up a point. Yeah, I think we're in the situation now where we're probably quite fortunate with the fixtures we've got coming up. Like teams like QPR and mid-table, I feel like they always sort of drop off towards the end of the year because they're sort of safe by now. Same with Preston following that. I feel like looking at the fixtures coming up, we've got 2 must-win games, and they're both at home and they're both against relegation things. So I think it's must-win on Tuesday. It's not even a case of not lose. It is a must-win game, and then it follows up with a must-win game a few weeks later against Stoke. Win those 2, and I think we'll be fine. But yeah, Tuesday is the first of the 2 cup finals for me.
We've talked about changes, Tom. Is there anyone you're bringing in on Tuesday? Is there anyone you want to see dropped?
I don't think it's anyone in particular. I think it's just I want us to be a little bit braver on the ball. I want us to go out there and attack, because Luton concede goals. I know we do too, but like we've looked a little bit more dangerous going forward recently, and we're at home. They're going to be nervy. They know full well that their season could be over if they lose it. So I think we've just got to get at them. So just get some of our attacking players on there. Keep Salak in there, get some pace on there as well, and just get at them early. Let's not be 1-0 down within 10 minutes, especially against a team as bad as Luton. Because I think like in the reverse fixture, we lost that one. We were the better team. That felt like a decent performance at the time. In hindsight, it wasn't, because they're a poor team. But they were there to be got at in that game, and we didn't quite do it. So I don't want us to do the same mistake again.
And then Ben, looking ahead to the following Saturday, Blackburn away. Obviously 15th of March, Blackburn away, Ewood Park. They lost surprisingly to Derby yesterday. We never seem to fare well at Ewood Park, but now is the time to change that, isn't it?
Has to be, yeah. I think even a point there. I think if you can pick up a couple of bonus points on the road, I think it's going to do huge things for us now. But there are teams sort of haven't really got going. Funny enough, I've just spoke about Ishmael coming in, but like since he's come in, they've not really kicked on. I feel like the departure of Eustace really has sort of knocked them a little bit, and their confidence is down. Just like the pressure clearly got some against Derby. 2-0 down, was it within 15 minutes?
I think it was even within 10 minutes. It was very early.
So it is. There are clearly issues there and things we can exploit. And I feel like at their place after the results they've got, who have they got on? I don't think they're playing on Tuesday, are they? So like they're going to come from that loss against Derby. Oh no, they're playing Stoke. Sorry, they're playing a huge game that as well, isn't it? So they're playing Stoke on Wednesday, then playing us. if things don't go their way against Stoke and we go there, the crowd's going to be on their back because they're still sort of hoping for the playoff push.
Yeah.
They're only 3 points off, could be a few more off by the end of it. There's a good opportunity there to get something from that game as well.
We have only beaten them once since 2017. That was on the 4th of October 2022. Obviously, famously, we lost 5-1 to them a couple of years ago, Tom. If we win both of these games, that's a huge 6 points at this time of the season, isn't it, Tom? And it would really set us up going into the international break.
Yeah, I think that'll be us feeling pretty safe at that point. I think we shouldn't then go through the rest of the season not picking up many points. And like I said earlier, teams already like 4, 5, 6 points behind us. They need to win 4 games then to catch us and rely on us not winning anything. So I think these 2 games are huge. Like it just, you always want to be the team with the points on the board, and especially like in this situation when points are hard to come by. So yeah, it'd be absolutely massive. And I think we could breathe a little easier and sleep a little easier if we do get 6 points.
Do you think we're going to get 6 points, Ben? What's your prediction?
I think 4 points.
Oh, Tom.
Oh, I don't know. This is how my mind works. Like I go Burnley and Sunderland, I'm saying again results against both. And then going into this now, because we expected to get something, I'm shitting myself. But like, I think we will beat Luton, but there's a part of me thinks we could easily lose this 1-0 or draw 1-1 or something like that. But I think we will sneak a win there. And I think we might get a draw away from home.
All right, so 4 points. I think we're going to get 4 points from these 2 games. I'm hopeful anyway. It really is season defining. It's a big week for Cardiff City and we'll be back. Well, we'll see how we do against Luton. We might be back on Tuesday night if we get a good win. Who knows? Who can say? But we'll certainly be back after the Blackbird game next Sunday. Twitter.com/VFT Ninian for all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, youtube.com/VFT Ninian, or just search us in the search bar. Please like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Comment on our videos. Leave us reviews. If you listen on a podcast platform, leave us 5-star reviews on Apple. 4-star reviews if you don't think it's 5 stars. 3-star reviews.
No.
Got to be 5-star reviews. Only 5-star reviews. If you don't give us a 5-star review, don't review us. And go to viewfromninian.com for all the ways of contacting us. Ben, what are you going to do with the rest of your Sunday?
Off for a dog walk.
Oh, Tom, what are you going to do with the last of your Sunday?
Well, you might have noticed in the last minute or two I've been slightly distracted. That's because there was a massive spider on my window and now I can't see it. So
you're burning the house.
Yeah. So I'm going to set my house on fire and not sleep for the next week. That's my plan.
That is Australia, though, isn't it? They love spiders over there.
Yeah, me not so much.
Yeah, it's going to bite you. Anyway, we'll be back. See you next week. Thanks for listening.
Join us next week with Ryan March.